Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cinema Activist Podcast. I am your host, John Lyons. Thanks so much for being here. This is episode 2 of season 3 of Cinema Activist. And in today's episode, we're going to be catching you up on all things Tethered. Tethered is a performance art company that works in the immersive theatrical space. If you know anything about immersive theater, you've certainly heard the name Sleep No More. And Sleep No More was my first experience with immersive theater. It ran for nearly 14 years in New York City, and I was lucky enough to see it before the end of its run. Sleep No More is loosely based on Macbeth. Basically, you wear a mask and you show up, they drop you off on a random floor, and you're free to roam. It's sort of a choose your own adventure. It was really a life-changing experience for me. I wanted to stay in that space all day and all night. You'll encounter characters. All of the characters in the show, they are not wearing masks, so that way you can tell right away who's an audience member and who is not. It has a very dreamy, mysterious, voyeuristic vibe to it. You can't interact with the performers or speak, but they can interact with you. I was in a scene where it was a forest and there were pathways in the forest. Yes, they built a forest among many other awesome sets in this building. It was 2 characters. They were separated by the trees. You could tell that they had a longing for each other. And I was kind of sticking around there by myself watching, and the nurse came up to me and took my hand and walked me through the path, and then built into the corner of this huge space was like a treehouse or a clubhouse. And I sat in there, and yeah, it was an amazing performance. It got me emotional. She was emotional, and it was fantastic. Obviously, it felt very intimate. It was like something I had never experienced before. It was like stepping into a noir film. The lighting was great. Everything was top notch. I saw that in late 2022, very similar to my stories in the previous episode about the Holy Ghost feature film project. This is another Christmas in New York City, and a heavy influence, the influence on coming back to Erie at the beginning of 2023 and wanting to see if we could pull something like this off of this scale or anywhere near this scale in Erie, Pennsylvania. So what is immersive theater? Essentially, when you see a play or a film or a dance performance, there's a clear separation between the audience member and the performers. There's a proscenium, there's a stage. You're sitting passively in the audience, and you're either watching a screen or you're watching someone perform on a stage. In immersive theater, there is no proscenium. There's not such a clear barrier between audience and performer. There's many different types of immersive entertainment, but the kind that we're focusing on is the more theatrical, which can be a combination of dance performances and actors. Essentially, the idea is to immerse the audience into the world of the show. It's sort of a choose your own adventure. You can have varying degrees of autonomy in these types of shows. You can be totally free roaming. Like Sleep No More, for example, was so well designed that you could walk into any room and open drawers on desks and go through the props that were inside those drawers, and everything was related to the show and the characters of the show. It was a fully lived in world. So that's one form of immersive show where it's kind of free reign, choose your own adventure. Then there's another type of show like Masquerade, which is going on right now in New York City, which is based on Phantom of the Opera. And that one is more guided by the staff that are working on the crew, where they will escort small groups into a room and there will be a performance, and then they will escort you into the next room, which is also very fun and people love very much. And then you get, special little trinkets from the show, which is really cool. And people love collecting those. Here's one that I got from Sleep No More. playing card. For our Tethered show, we give our audience members little tethered pins so that they can get tethered. So yeah, it's all about making your audience feel like they're a part of the show. You can interact with the performers, they can interact with you. You roam across the space however you want. You can arrive late, you can leave early. The idea is that the show is so packed with characters and story that there's really no way that you can experience all of the show. You'd have to go back many, many, many times. Also gives you a feeling of having a unique experience, right? No two people in theory will have the same experience of going to that show on that day or that night, because you're all making your own choices. You might connect with a certain character and someone else in your party might connect with another character, and you'll go your separate directions. Yeah, so that's immersive theater in a nutshell. It's a combination of dance, film, theater, escape rooms, video games, haunted houses. It's kind of all of these things combined, and it's a really, really exciting art form. I have loved my experience at Sleep No More. I saw Life and Trust. I've seen Masquerade. I went and saw Meow Wolf out in Denver. Any chance I get now, anytime I'm in a city that has immersive entertainment of any kind, I try and check out these shows. No one was doing anything like this, and started inviting dancers, choreographers, artists, writers, theater directors to meet and just kind of kick around ideas of how this would look. Fast forward to our first show, which is in 2024. In February of 2024, we did just a 2-night show. It was called Tethered, and the theme of that show was codependency. And our first show took place at PACA, which is the Performing Arts Collective Alliance in downtown Erie, in a historic building. It's a 5-story building called the Miser Building, and PACA was great partners. We also partnered with SafeNet on that show, and it was about codependency in all its different forms. And essentially, we were testing the waters on a lot of things. We had a big cast of 30, if I recall, and a crew, very dedicated crew and performers. And essentially, one of the team members, Nikki Bear, shared some personal stories that informed some of the spaces in the show. This was essentially not for the performers a fully roaming throughout the various spaces and the various sets like they did in Sleep No More. In our case, we only had 3 or 4 characters that roamed across the 5 floors. The rest of our performers were pretty much static on a set that their individual story and experience took place in. And so our audience members would either traverse the stairway that went through the center of the building, or took the elevator up and down. And basically they could stop and watch the different sets or follow one of the few characters that moved around. We had Tony Gray, who made the original score for Tethered, and it was a 1-hour performance and a 1-hour score that looped 3 times each night, which was how Sleep No More was set up. We had digital clocks that we also placed on each of the sets so that our performers could, have the music playing to keep them in sync and in time. And then we had the clocks as well. And that went really well. We had hundreds of people attend. It was, again, just a 2-night and done. And we proved that we could do something like this in our region. So basically, as soon as that show ended, we started work immediately on the next Tethered, which again was called Tethered. And this one was focused on the themes of memory and consciousness. And that show took place over 4 nights, 2 weekends in September of 2025. And again, we had hundreds of people attend. We had a combination of dancers and performers. This time we had our characters roaming across the entire space of the former Manor Corps Club building. So this was a German, men's singing choir club, and the building is 3 floors. It's 36,000 square feet, a huge space. In the previous show, when we were in the PACA building, we didn't have ownership, if you will, of the entire building. We had a space or two on each floor, but we didn't have the whole building. In the case of our 2025 show, we had the entire building, which, led to a lot of different challenges of its own. It's a very wide space to cover. We had a cast of about 20 dancers, theater performers, film performers that were in the cast. It was again an original score by Tony Gray that was an hour long, and it played 3 times back to back to back. What we did in our story development is we had a progression change for some of the characters between the 3 loops, as we called them. So instead of doing the same thing every time, due to the nature of our story, we were able to add different shadings and colorings and some story arcs that were developed and ran through the course of the 3 shows. So there was actually a different reward for audience members that stuck around, and they would see like a different ending and like a complete ending at the end of the 3rd loop, which was very cool. We introduced some different challenges in the first year. Our performers, some of them spoke and had written dialogue or improvisations. And in the second year, when we did the Memory and Consciousness show, it was all movement based for the vast majority of the show and for the performers. So it was non-speaking. We did have some rooms that were set up that a couple of our characters, when they went into, they would talk and they would interact with the audience, and the audience could ask them questions and interact with them. But otherwise, it was non-speaking, and that led to challenges, of course, of its own. So each year of Tethered, we created what we call a video companion, which is essentially a behind-the-scenes look at the production and development, and includes some footage from the live performances of each show. You can find our entire Tethered 2024 video companion documentary on YouTube. It's on the Cinema Activist YouTube and the Lion's Den Productions YouTube. I will show you some footage for the upcoming Tethered 2025 video companion, which was made by Everything at Once Studios and includes some Q&A discussion with the cast and crew during our talkbacks, as well as some footage as well. The entire Tethered 2025 video companion is releasing on June 15th of this month on both the Cinema Activist and Lion's Den Productions YouTube channels. So if you jump over to Cinema Activist or Lion's Den Productions on YouTube, you can add a notification to Tethered 2025 and watch the entire behind the scenes documentary. We started talking about Eastern philosophy, right, Jesse? And we started talking about how Western philosophy, we want to over-medicate and use technology, and we're fearful of death, and we see death as the end. I'm going to probably hand this over to Jesse I'll start the thought. Because this is really, like, Jesse understood this stuff so much more than me. But really, it came around to that death isn't the end. And in this place, you all, in a meta sense, play spirits in here. Time, it's the time is a flat circle thing, and all time is happening at once. And, we're made of stars, and we continue on, and, we're all made of the same stuff and mixing and intermingling together. So we kind of took that to the level of, Matt actually was asked tonight. Weren't you asked tonight, Matt, like what year it was or something at some point? And he has his answer, 2035. We're in 2025. There's also 1995 happening in here, and in theory, everything in between. and we've all passed through this space. And when Alex, collapses at minute 20 on the dot, he's continuing on in the form of Spirit Father. You want to take more from there?
Really, when it all started, I just wanted to have like a cool technology component to the show, but I didn't know what that was going to turn into. And when we settled on memory, I had the idea for the son character as just someone who is very hard-nosed and controlling, just like the typical white American who is a businessman, but he's trying to cure his mother and understand the illness. And in Eastern traditions, they just take a very different approach. They go with the flow. As John said, death's not the end. And we really wanted to focus in on something that could provide hope to the audience because, as I said earlier, so many people in the cast and crew personally knew someone that had the illness, and I did not. And so I felt my biggest contribution was, how can you look at this kind of situation in a different light?
I will tease then that we've been working for many months now on the hopefully 2026 show of Tethered. What we're working on is two interconnected experiences. One will be a live theater show like we've done before, but again, switching up the mechanics and the logistics of it a little bit again and making it unique from the other two experiences with a completely original storyline as well. And we're also working on an audio drama that would be featuring a character that's from the live show and stepping into their shoes as you're walking around in downtown Erie, listening through your headphones or earbuds to their voice and their experience as they're kind of serving as a tour guide through downtown Erie, and you're connecting with them as you're listening. But yeah, so that's the other project that I'm fundraising for, is the new Tethered Immersive theatrical experience. The storyline is based on a nonprofit organization and corruption. It's also about worker power and unionizing. It's really a story of the haves and have-nots. Our cast is made up of members of this nonprofit organization, as well as members of the staff that are working to support them and the club that their meetings take place at. This setup of the show is that the nonprofit organization is giving their annual report, and the public is invited to attend that annual report meeting. And throughout the course of the show, as you're meeting the various performers and staff members, you might be seeing some cracks in their stories, and some of that corruption will start bubbling to the surface. And then the audience members themselves in this show will be directly involved in the outcome of the show. This time we're not going to do 3 loops, but it will be a up to 3 hour long performance, and the audience will be, again, directly involved in either supporting one side of efforts or the other, maintaining the status quo, or bringing about justice and equality. And depending on how the audience does and what the chemistry of the audience is on that night, there can be possible different branched outcomes to the story, which is really exciting and of course has its own new challenges. So that's essentially the background of Tethered, and giving you a little tease of what we're working on with the new show. I am extremely happy for this show as well, and we're right now fundraising and applying for grants and seeking sponsors too. I do have some other news as far as the venue and some of the performers and the crew involved and the timeline of the show, but I think I will save that for future episodes of this podcast. I think we'll leave it at that for now. So this gives you, after episode 1 and episode 2, a little more background on the Holy Ghost feature film project and of the Tethered show, which is the two interconnecting stories. We're calling the live show The Lever, and we're calling the audio experience Seized. Fundraising for both, hoping to get them both off the ground and bringing you along for the ride. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon.